Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Tuesday and the patch is actually already live, which means it's time for us to talk through the top 5 changes of patch 13.23. I'll let you guys know what the biggest changes were and what you can be looking forward to in your coming games. 13.23 is a very small patch. That's because it is the penultimate patch of Season 13. It is coming to an end very soon, and with Riot focused more so on Season 14 than Season 13, that's why it's pretty small. Also, most of the champions on this patch are no strangers to the patch notes, so with all that said, let's not waste any more time and hop right into things, starting off with our number 5 change, the nerfs to Naafiri. Now, Naafiri was created with the goal of being an easy-to-play assassin. The problem is she's a little too easy to play right now. She's too easily able to find early successes and convert them into wins thanks to her consistent and reliable kit, and as a result, Riot want to bring her power level back down a notch. They don't mind Naafiri being able to snowball, but they do want her to have to work harder for them. These nerfs are pretty brutal, honestly. Losing up to 5 AD per pack mate is pretty rough, as is losing 25 base damage on E's explosion. That's the more reliable part of this ability, and as a result, Naafiri is losing quite a bit of her pretty reliable damage that she's able to put out. However, Riot didn't touch Naafiri's scalings. That means she'll be forced to convert on early opportunities more reliably now in order to snowball, because if she fails to get early kills, it'll start to drop her damage off a lot quicker. I think these are survivable changes for her, but certainly changes that make her much weaker. Moving on to the number 4 changes here, we're going to be talking about Briar. This is the 4th time in the 5 patches since she's been live, by the way, that Briar has been getting nerfed. For those of you keeping track, 4 of the 5 she has gotten nerfed in. I don't know if this is a record, but it feels like it. So stop me if you've heard this before. As players continue to learn Briar, her win rate keeps getting better, so Riot needs to nerf her. Congratulations, that's what's going on here. These nerfs will make Briar squishier at basically all points of the game, and therefore make her more dependent on getting bonus health from items, and it taps down her ability to burst someone to death with snack attack. That means that the changeless shifts her more towards sustained fighter-like play patterns, rather than bursty assassin-like play patterns. But generally, these changes seem pretty lackluster for a champion that's consistently needed nerfs. I don't know if these are going to be enough to really just get Briar out of the metagame. So, anyways, I'll see you all in 13.24 to discuss the next set of Briar nerfs, because I don't think these are going to do enough to really knock her down. Moving on to the number 3 change on this week's patch, these are the changes to Azir. Azir has never been a newbie-friendly champion, but a lot of newer players are consistently confused by a soldier's inability to apply on-hit auto-attack effects. They say, oh, he auto-attacks with his soldiers, so if I build things like Runon's Hurricane, that works, right? Spoiler alert, that does not actually work. And as a result, Riot are trying to clear up this confusion by allowing Azir's soldiers to apply on-hit auto-attack effects for the first time in his existence. This means things like Runon's Hurricane, Kraken Slayer, and Rageblade are clear to be built on the Emperor for the first time ever. Riot did hit Azir's Sand Soldiers with a preemptive nerf here. Their base damage has gone down as well as the AP ratio. And this feels unnecessary. All these changes feel unnecessary, honestly. I feel like they are hamstringing AP Azir, which is his preferred playstyle, in exchange for allowing this cheesy alternate build that's almost assured to take over his main playstyle once these changes go live. We'll see how it shakes out. I might be over-exaggerating, but I feel like Azir will be significantly more incentivized to build on hit, and as a result, he's going to be back on the balance roller coaster, baby. But like I said, we'll see how these changes shake out. I may be making a mountain out of a molehill. Moving on to the number 2 changes in this week's patch, we're going to be talking about the Ziggs nerfs. Now, Ziggs was given a love tap on the last patch to compensate for the new power they gave him in 13.21 with his Q radius, but it wasn't nearly enough to prevent him from continuing to reign supreme, because he can play far enough back that his armor nerf didn't really matter, right? He still wasn't taking enough damage for it to actually knock him down a peg. As a result, this patch has a more comprehensive nerf package to tone back Ziggs. Losing 10 damage on Bouncing Bomb is a fairly substantial nerf, since this is his bread and butter ability, and the satchel charge changes here are to make it less good as a poke tool. This is something that bot lane Ziggs does more often than mid lane Ziggs. Mid lane Ziggs really needs to hold it as his way to peel for himself and get himself to safety. Bot lane Ziggs is usually at less risk of being engaged upon, and as a result, he'll just throw it out for extra poke. So this won't hurt mid lane Ziggs very much, because they're not casting it, so the cooldown doesn't really matter, and the extra mana cost doesn't really matter, but bot lane Ziggs will be a lot less incentivized to just throw out Ws for free extra poke. As an aside, though, the 1 AD buff here is a side effect of Riot merging some of the arena-specific changes in on this patch, and it wasn't really intended, but it's not a meaningful buff to Ziggs, so they just kind of left it in, so yay. But that's why that's there. It wasn't actually Riot saying he needs 1 more AD, guys, trust. As a result of these changes, Ziggs should feel a little weaker, but being able to more reliably land Qs on his opponents should keep him feeling strong overall, so I don't think this is a huge deal for Ziggs. I think he'll continue to feel quite powerful. Finally, the number one change on this week's patch are the changes, yet again, to K'Sante. K'Sante continues to get closer to where Riot want him to be following his mini rework, but he's still not weak enough for their liking in his disadvantaged matchups. These changes are intended to sharpen his weaknesses, to allow strong top lane bullies to beat him more easily, while maintaining his scaling nature. The biggest hits here are to his Q. It costs almost double what it did at rank 1 than it did before, and it scales down to be still 5 more mana than it costs right now at max rank, while dealing less damage, by the way. As a spammable ability, this is a massive hit to K'Sante. Your Q usage will need to be a lot more restrained following these changes, at least until you hit level 9, where you can kind of start spamming again like you did before. But in general, you are going to feel really, really weak in the early game, and you will have to watch your Q button presses on K'Sante because you will super, super fast if you're not. His E's base shields were buffed for some reason, but they do have weakened bonus health scaling, so it's weaker in the scaling game, but it does mean that, like, technically, if he's putting points into this as, like, a second max, he's going to feel okay. And his R lost some bonus AD, but it does have slightly buffed passive damage scaling, and since it now scales linearly, a level 10 K'Sante in a team fight doesn't feel as bad as he did previously. Overall, these changes really hurt K'Sante. I expect him to be significantly weaker in the early game, and only maybe coming back into his own in the later stages of the game. As a result, he'll have to be forced to play more as a scaling top lane tank instead of a lane bully plus super tank that he was beforehand. So I think it's good changes for what Riot want him to be, but certainly if you're a K'Sante player, you're going to feel a lot weaker in lane. And that is going to be it for me today, guys. Those are the top 5 changes of patch 13.23. Let me know what you're most excited for down in the comments section below. I'm just more looking forward to Season 14, honestly, but I do think that this is a good change set. But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.